Flip any bag of dog food around and look at the front. Big photo of a grilled chicken, maybe some fresh vegetables scattered around it. The word premium in gold letters. Looks like a restaurant menu. And that's the point. The front of the bag is advertising. That's all it is. There are almost no rules about what can go on the front. The real rules are on the back, in the tiny print nobody reads. But the name on the front? That actually does mean something, legally. And this is where it gets kind of amazing once you see the pattern. If a bag says chicken dog food, just the protein and the species, nothing else, that food has to be at least 95% chicken by weight, not counting water. 95. That's a real number with legal weight behind it. Now watch what happens when they add one word. Chicken dinner for dogs, chicken entree, chicken recipe. Soon as you see dinner, entree, platter, formula, recipe, any of those, the requirement drops to 25%. One word, 95 to 25. That's not a small difference. That's a completely different product. And it gets worse. If the bag says dog food with chicken, with that little 3-letter word, the chicken only has to be 3% of the total product. 3. You could basically wave a chicken over the mixing bowl and call it compliant. And then there's chicken flavor, which means, honestly, it means almost nothing. There doesn't have to be any actual chicken in it, just something that makes it taste like chicken to a dog, which, dogs eat garbage, so the bar is not high. So yeah, the front of the bag is a billboard. The back is the receipt. Read the receipt. Ingredients on a dog food label have to be listed by weight before cooking. Heaviest first, lightest last. That's the law. Sounds fair, right? It is fair, until you realize there's a loophole big enough to drive a truck through. Say you're a dog food company, and your recipe is mostly corn with some chicken mixed in. So what do? You split it. Instead of listing corn, you list cornmeal, corn gluten meal, and whole ground corn. 3 entries instead of 1. Each one weighs less than the chicken on its own, so chicken floats to the top of the list. The total amount of corn hasn't changed, not by a single gram, but now the label reads like a meat-first formula. That's ingredient splitting. It's legal, it's common, and once you know to look for it, you'll start seeing it everywhere. The giveaway is almost always in the first 5 or 6 ingredients. If you see brown rice, white rice, and rice bran all clustered together, that's rice, 3 times, wearing 3 different outfits. Pea protein, pea flour, pea starch. Same trick, different vegetable. The brand gets to slap real chicken is the #1 ingredient on the front, and technically they're not lying. Technically. But if you added all those split ingredients back together, the chicken wouldn't even be close to #1. So the move is simple. Don't just read the first ingredient and feel good about it. Read the first 10. Count how many times the same base ingredient shows up under different names. If corn or rice or peas appear 2, 3, 4 times, the food is mostly that. Doesn't matter what's listed first. Okay, this one trips people up, and I get it, because the words look almost identical. Chicken, chicken meal, chicken byproduct meal. 3 labels, 3 very different things, and the differences actually matter. Chicken on an ingredient list means whole chicken, flesh, skin, maybe some bone. Sounds great. But, and this is the part people miss, whole chicken is about 70% water. That's a lot of weight that's going to cook off during processing. So when chicken is listed as the #1 ingredient by pre-cooking weight, that's before most of it evaporates. After cooking, that chicken might not be the main ingredient anymore. It's kind of I don't want to say a scam because it's technically accurate, but it's definitely not the full picture. Chicken meal is chicken that's already been cooked down, dried, and ground into a powder. The water's already gone. So when chicken meal shows up on the ingredient list, the weight you're seeing is closer to what actually ends up in the kibble. Pound for pound, chicken meal has way more protein than whole chicken on a label. It's the flesh, skin, and bone. No feathers, no heads, no feet, no intestines. Those are excluded by definition. Chicken byproduct meal is the rest. Organs, liver, kidneys, lungs, spleen, sometimes bones, sometimes necks. Not feathers or beaks. That's a myth that won't die. But the quality can vary a lot batch to batch, and you really have no way of knowing what ratio of what parts you're getting. The short version, chicken sounds the best, but might contribute less protein than you think. Chicken meal is often the better value. Chicken byproduct meal is the cheapest option, and it's there because it's cheap. That's pretty much the whole story. Okay, so there's this rule. Well, it's actually 3 rules, but they work together. And once you learn them, you will never read a dog food label the same way again. I'm serious about that. AAFCO, that's the Association of American Feed Control Officials. They're basically the ones who decide what pet food companies can and can't say on a bag. They set up these naming rules based on percentages, and the percentages are wild. If a product is called chicken dog food or beef dog food, just the protein and the words dog food, nothing else fancy, that named ingredient has to make up 95% of the total weight, not counting water added for processing. 95. That's almost the whole thing. Now, watch what happens when you add one word. Chicken dinner for dogs, beef entree, lamb platter. The second you see dinner, entree, platter, recipe, formula, any of those, that percentage drops to 25. That's not a small difference. That's going from nearly the whole product to a quarter of it. One word on the label, and 70% of the meat just vanished. But it gets worse. Dog food with chicken. See that with? 3%. The chicken only has to be 3% of the product. 3. You could sneeze chicken into a vat and hit that threshold. And then there's chicken flavor, which requires, and I had to read this twice to believe it, 0%. None. A dog has to be able to taste it. That's the legal standard. So chicken dog food and chicken flavor dog food are not even in the same universe. But they're sitting next to each other on the same shelf, sometimes at the same price. And that's the game, right? That's the whole game. You know those words that just feel like they should mean something? Natural, premium, holistic. They're on like every third bag in the aisle. Big font, front of the package, sometimes with a little leaf graphic or a sunset or whatever. They mean nothing. Legally, functionally, nothing. Premium has no regulatory definition in pet food. None. A company can slap premium on a bag of the cheapest formula they make, and no one's going to call them on it because there's no rule to break. It's not like organic, which actually has USDA certification behind it. Premium is just a vibe. It's marketing copy that sounds like a promise but isn't one. Holistic? Same thing. There's no AAFCO definition for holistic. There's no FDA definition. There's no legal definition anywhere. It's a word that makes you think of whole ingredients and balanced nutrition, and maybe a golden retriever running through a field. And it does exactly none of that on paper. Natural is the one that almost has teeth. AAFCO does define it, sort of. It means the ingredients are derived from plant, animal, or mined sources and haven't been produced by a chemically synthetic process. Okay, fine, but here's the catch. Synthetic vitamins and minerals are still allowed under that label, which kind of defeats the point. Like, we're calling it natural, but also acknowledging that the natural ingredients alone aren't cutting it nutritionally. So we're supplementing with synthetic ones, and that's still natural. So when you see those words on a bag, just, I don't know, let your eyes slide right past them. They're not information, they're decoration.
This one really got me when I first read about it. Human grade sounds like the gold standard, right? Like, if I could eat it, it must be good enough for my dog. Makes total sense as a gut reaction. But the term human grade actually does have a legal meaning, and that's what makes it tricky. For a pet food to legally call itself human grade, every single ingredient has to be human edible. And this is the part people miss. The food has to be manufactured in a facility that meets human food production standards. Not a pet food plant that's really clean, an actual human food facility with all the inspections and compliance that comes with it. And almost nobody does that, like a tiny handful of brands. The cost of running a human-grade operation is massive compared to standard pet food manufacturing. So what most companies do instead is say things like, made with human-grade ingredients, which sounds almost the same, but isn't at all.
Because individual ingredients might qualify as human grade before they enter the facility, but once they're processed in a pet food plant, the final product doesn't meet the standard anymore. It's like saying, this house is made with architect-grade materials. Okay, cool, but who built it, and did they know what they were doing? AAFCO actually cracked down on this a bit. They said if you're going to use that term, the whole product has to qualify, not just the inputs. But enforcement is spotty, and brands have gotten creative with how they phrase things to dance right up to the line without technically crossing it. So yeah, if a bag says human grade, check if they mean the finished product or just the ingredients before processing. 9 times out of 10, it's the second one.
Flip the bag over. Skip past the ingredient list for a second. Skip past the guaranteed analysis. Skip past all of it. Find the small print. There's a sentence buried down there, usually near the bottom, sometimes in a font size that's almost insulting, and it'll say something like, product name is formulated to meet the nutritional levels established by the AAFCO dog food nutrient profiles for life stage. That sentence, that's the whole game, because complete and balanced on the front of the bag means nothing unless that AAFCO nutritional adequacy statement backs it up, and the life stage part matters.
All life stages means it meets the highest standard, puppy nutrition requirements, basically. Adult maintenance means it's fine for grown dogs, but not formulated for puppies or pregnant dogs. Supplemental feeding, and this one catches people, means it is literally not designed to be your dog's only food. It's a topper, a treat, not a meal. And look, I get it. Nobody's standing in the pet store reading the fine print like it's a legal contract. But that's kind of the point. The front of the bag is marketing. The back of the bag is where the law kicks in. And that one sentence is the line between this food can keep your dog alive and healthy on its own, and this is technically not a complete diet. There's also a version of that statement that says animal feeding tests using AAFCL procedures instead of formulated to meat. That means they actually fed it to real dogs and confirmed it worked, which is, it's a higher bar. Not everyone agrees it's a necessary bar, but it's a higher one, worth knowing it exists. That little chart on the side, crude protein, crude fat, crude fiber, moisture, looks like it should be useful. And it is, sort of, once you know what it's actually telling you. Because the numbers on a bag of kibble and the numbers on a can of wet food aren't comparable, not even close. And the reason is water. Kibble's usually around 10% moisture. Canned food, 75–80%. So when a can says 12% protein and a bag says 26% protein, the kibble looks way better, right? It's not. You're comparing a dried out number to a waterlogged one. The fix is something called dry matter basis. Sounds fancy, it's not. You take the moisture percentage, subtract it from 100, and that gives you the dry matter. Then you divide the nutrient percentage by that dry matter number. So if your canned food is 78% moisture, that's 22% dry matter. 12% protein divided by 0.22 gives you about 54% protein on a dry matter basis. Now do the same math on the kibble.
26% protein, 90% dry matter. That's about 29%. The can wins. By a lot. And here's the kicker. Wait, no, I said I wouldn't say that. Here's what bugs me. The guaranteed analysis also only lists minimums for protein and fat, and maximums for fiber and moisture. So minimum 26% crude protein could mean 26%, or it could mean 32%. You don't actually know.
It's a floor, not a measurement, which is fine, I guess, but it means you're working with ranges, not facts. The word crude doesn't help either. It just means the testing method is approximate. It's not a quality judgment, though honestly, it kind of feels like one. AAFCO, the Association of American Feed Control Officials, doesn't approve dog food. I know, that surprises people. They don't test it, they don't certify it, they don't put a stamp on anything. What they do is set the definitions, the rules for what words mean on the label, and the FDA and state regulators enforce those rules. So AAFCO is more like the dictionary that the law references, not the law itself.
But that AAFCO statement on the back of the bag, the one I mentioned a minute ago, it's doing a lot of heavy lifting because there are really only two versions of it that matter. One says the food was formulated to meet AAFCO nutrient profiles. That means someone did the math, ran the recipe through a spreadsheet, basically, and confirmed the numbers add up. The other says the food was tested using AAFCO feeding trial procedures. That means actual dogs ate this food for a set period. I think it's 26 weeks, something like that, and came out the other side healthy. Blood work, weight, the whole thing.
Now, does feeding trial automatically mean better? Not necessarily. The sample sizes are small, like 8 dogs small, and a food can pass a formulation review and still be perfectly fine. But the feeding trial version tells you something a spreadsheet can't, that a living animal processed this food and did okay on it. That's not nothing.
The part that gets me is how buried this statement usually is. You'd think the company would want to shout about it. Hey, we actually tested this on real dogs. But no, it's crammed in with the fine print, same font as the zip code on the address line, almost like they don't want you comparing.
Animal byproducts is one of those phrases that sounds like it was designed to make you gag. And honestly, the pet food industry has done a terrible job defending it, which kind of tells you something. But let's actually look at what it means, because it's not as simple as good or bad. Byproducts are the parts of the animal that aren't skeletal muscle meat. So we're talking liver, kidneys, heart, lungs, spleen, organs, basically. And look, I get it, that's not appetizing to you. But your dog would eat a liver off the ground and look at you like it just won the lottery. Organ meats are genuinely nutrient dense. Like, liver alone has more vitamin A and B12 than a chicken breast by a huge margin. So byproducts as a category, not the villain. The problem, and this is where it gets annoying, is the word animal. Not chicken byproducts, not beef byproducts, just animal. Which means the source can change batch to batch, and there's no way for you to know what's actually in there. Could be duck liver one month, pork spleen the next. And if your dog has a food sensitivity, that's a nightmare. You can't track what's triggering it if the protein keeps rotating under the same vague label.
So the rule I kind of landed on is this. Named byproducts are fine. Chicken byproducts, turkey byproducts, cool. I know what animal we're dealing with. But animal byproducts, or and this one's even worse, meat byproducts, that's the industry saying, trust us, without giving you anything to actually trust. And after reading enough of these labels, I don't think trust us cuts it. You'd think this means the food works perfectly for every dog at every age. Puppy, adult, senior, all covered, all optimized. That's what it sounds like. That is absolutely not what it means. All it means, and I kind of had to read this twice before I believed it, is that the food meets the nutritional minimums for the most demanding life stage, which is growth, puppies. So AAFC says, okay, if it hits the puppy threshold, it technically doesn't fall short for adults either, so slap all life stages on the bag. But here's what bugs me. A puppy needs way more calories, more protein, more calcium, more fat per pound of body weight than a 5-year-old couch potato Labrador. So when you feed that same formula to your adult dog at the recommended amount, you might be overshooting on a bunch of stuff. Especially calories, especially calcium for large breeds, and that one actually matters. Too much calcium during growth in big dogs can mess with bone development, which is part of why large breed puppy formulas exist as a separate thing. Now, is all life stages food going to hurt your healthy adult dog? Probably not. Most of them do fine on it, but it's not some superior, covers everything formulation. It's a regulatory shortcut. The brand doesn't have to run separate feeding trials for each life stage. They hit the highest bar once and call it done, which is efficient for them. Whether it's ideal for your specific dog is a different question. So if you see all life stages and think you're getting something tailor-made, you're not. You're getting puppy food that adults can also eat. That's it. The feeding guidelines on the back of the bag are based on calories per cup, and almost nobody checks what that number actually is. They just scoop and go. But here's the thing. Calorie density varies wildly between brands. One kibble might run 320 calories per cup. Another one, same cup, 480. That's a 50% difference. And if you're following the 1 cup twice a day advice from brand B the same way you followed it from brand A, you just accidentally increased your dog's daily intake by like 300 calories. For a 40-pound dog, that's significant. That's why is my dog getting chunky territory, and you didn't change anything obvious. And the feeding charts? Okay, I don't want to say they're useless, but they're broad, really broad. They'll say something like, dogs 30 to 50 pounds, 2 to 2.5 cups per day. That's a 20-pound range covered by half a cup of difference. Your 31-pound terrier mix who sleeps 14 hours a day and your 49-pound pointer who runs laps around the yard are apparently in the same bracket. You can see how that falls apart. The calorie number is usually buried on the bag somewhere near the guaranteed analysis, sometimes way at the bottom, tiny font. AAFCO requires it, so it's there. Look for kilocalories per cup, or kcal per cup. Once you have that, you can actually compare foods on equal footing. A cup of this versus a cup of that means nothing. 350 calories of this versus 350 calories of that, now you're talking. Your vet can give you a target calorie range for your dog's size and activity level. Start there, not with a scoop. That little chart on the side of the bag, the one with the weight ranges and the cup measurements, yeah, that's not personalized advice. That's a starting suggestion written by the company that profits when you use more of their product. I mean, think about that for a second. And the ranges are ridiculous. Dogs 50 to 75 pounds, 2 to 3 cups per day. That's a 50% swing. A lazy senior basset hound and a hyperactive young lab could both land in that bracket.
And you're telling me they need the same amount of food? Come on. The other thing, and this is the part that actually bugs me, is the charts almost always skew high. They're based on intact, active adult dogs. Most pet dogs are spayed or neutered, which drops their caloric needs by like 15 to 20% right off the bat. So you follow the chart, you're generous with the scoop because who wants to underfeed their dog, and 6 months later, the vet's giving you the "your dog could stand to lose a few pounds" talk. And you're sitting there thinking you did everything right because you followed the instructions on the bag.
The calorie count is the number that actually matters. It's usually buried near the guaranteed analysis or on the bottom of the bag in tiny print. Kilocalories per cup or per kilogram if they're feeling fancy. Your vet can tell you roughly how many calories your specific dog needs per day based on weight, age, activity, all of it. Then you do the math yourself. It takes like 30 seconds with a calculator, but nobody does it because the chart is right there looking all official.
Made in the USA sounds great until you learn what it actually means. It means the food was assembled or processed in the United States. That's it. The chicken could have been raised in Brazil, the vitamins sourced from China, the fish meal shipped from Thailand, and the bag still says made in the USA. Totally legal, no asterisk required.
And look, that doesn't automatically mean the ingredients are bad. Plenty of countries produce perfectly fine raw materials. But if made in America is the reason you picked that bag over another one, you should know what you're actually being told, which is where the last step of manufacturing happened, not where the food came from. Some companies do voluntarily disclose sourcing. They'll say things like chicken sourced from USDA-inspected facilities, or list specific countries for specific ingredients. That's a good sign, not because domestic always beats imported, but because transparency usually tracks with quality control. Companies that tell you where stuff comes from tend to be the same ones testing for contaminants. The ones that don't, they're technically not breaking any rules by staying quiet, which, I don't know, kind of tells you something. Now, the date code. Most people check for an expiration date and move on, but fats and kibble start oxidizing the moment that bag gets sealed. A bag that's good until March 2027, but was manufactured 14 months ago, is not the same product as one made 2 months ago. You want the most recent production date you can find. Some brands print it clearly. Others use batch codes that you'd need a decoder ring to read. If you can't figure out when it was made, that's not a great sign either. Okay, so if you made it this far, you've got more information than like 90% of people standing in the dog food aisle. But nobody's gonna spend 10 minutes analyzing a bag at the store. So here's how to do it fast. First thing, flip the bag over. Ignore the front entirely. The front is marketing. The back is regulated. Named meat protein in the first ingredient. Not meat meal, not animal protein, not poultry byproducts, a specific animal. Chicken, beef, salmon, something with a name. If the first ingredient is vague, put it back. Second, scan for ingredient splitting. If you see rice, and then brown rice, and then brewer's rice scattered down the list, that's one ingredient wearing 3 disguises. Total grain content is probably higher than the first ingredient. Takes 2 seconds to spot once you know what you're looking for. Third, guaranteed analysis. Protein above 25%, fat somewhere around 12 to 15 for most adult dogs. If protein's low or fat's way high, that bag is built for a different situation, or it's just not great. Fourth, and this is the one people skip, find the AAFCO statement. You want complete and balanced, and you want it backed by feeding trials, not just formulated to meet nutrient profiles. Formulated means they did the math on paper. Feeding trials means dogs actually ate it and did fine. Big difference. Check the date code. Freshest bag on the shelf. Pull from the back if you have to. That's it. 5 things.
under a minute. And honestly, once you've done it 3 or 4 times, it becomes automatic. You just see it.